Ahead. Hello, everybody. Uh,
Hey.
there we go. Hi, everybody. My name's David Kamin, and I'm the NAC chair for Five Oaks Triple Creek. Welcome. Let's go around and introduce ourselves. I'm going to start with Erin at the bottom of my screen, and then we'll move up from there.
Hi, I'm Erin Hatch. I'm a recorder.
Okay, Jerome.
Jerome Sibayan, candidate for Beaverton City Council.
Thank you. Lori.
Leach, Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District.
Ashley.
Hi, I'm Ashley Hartmeier-Prigg, also a candidate for Beaverton City Council.
Officer Maurer.
Dan Maurer, Beaverton Police Department.
And Franziska.
Hello, I'm Franziska Rose. I work for the City of Beaverton and I'm standing in as the staff liaison tonight.
All right, well, welcome everybody. Okay, so the NAC is here. We represent the neighborhood, Five Oaks area. And tonight I'm just going to streamline the meeting because we have some people under a time crunch and we're very happy they are here. So if you don't mind, Ashley, I'm going to let Jerome go first. And Jerome, why don't you take a few minutes to tell us about yourself and where you stand on some of the issues. I mean, I have a list of questions, but I'm not sure if you'll be here for those.
Okay. No, thank you. My name is Jerome Sibayan, and I am running for Beaverton City Council because I am a public servant and I want to serve the people of Beaverton with honor, integrity, and respect. My platform is based on the principle that government exists to serve all of the people. I am the son of Filipino immigrants and was raised in Salem. I now live in the Vos neighborhood, a few blocks south of the main library. My word is my bond. I am a veteran. I am a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel, and I served for 28 years in war and peace around the world and throughout the United States. I am a licensed professional engineer with bachelor's and master's degrees in civil engineering. As a former public works director, I understand the importance of infrastructure to a sustainable and resilient city and community. I am an educator with master's and doctorate degrees in history and political science. I have taught courses on healthcare inequities and human rights at Portland State University, and I currently teach graduate courses on national security and critical thinking at the Army War College. Like you, I am a community volunteer. I have served the people of Beaverton through the Human Rights Advisory Commission, the Social Services Funding Committee, the Beaverton Severe Weather Shelter, Community Emergency Response Team, Beaverton School District Bond Accountability Committee, Metro's Get Moving 2020 Transportation Infrastructure Investment Team, and Home Plate for Homeless Youth Board of Directors. I also serve with Engineers Without Borders, Community Engineering Corps, and the Education First Scholarship Foundation, all benefiting traditionally underserved communities. I'm grateful that my military pension and ongoing teaching allows me to continue my long tradition of public service and to self-fund my campaign. If I am elected, I will donate all after-tax counselor compensation to local nonprofits doing good work right here in Beaverton. I want to thank you for your service on this Neighborhood Association Committee. I know firsthand the personal investment in time and energy it takes to voluntarily serve the people of Beaverton. I am not a politician. I am a public servant, and I want to serve this city with honor, integrity, and respect. And I hope I have your vote for Beaverton City Council in this special election. I'm sorry I have to leave, but I am in the midst of a 3-hour marathon interview with grant applications, people who have applied for grants through the Social Services Funding Committee. We're trying to grant about $320,000 this year, so it's hard decisions ahead of us. But I would like to. I'm sorry I'm gonna have to go, but I would like to type my email in the chat and hope maybe to hear from some of you later on.
Okay, great. And
Thank you.
if you voice it, it'll be recorded and can be put into the minutes as well. So,
Okay, it's Jerome@Sibayan.org.
great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our other candidate who decided to come is Ashley Hartmeier-Prigg. We're really happy that she's here. And Ashley, take it away.
Thank you, David. Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Hartmeier-Prigg, and I am running for Beaverton City Council Seat 1. I grew up in Beaverton. I spent a lot of time at the library back when it was on Allen. And then, of course, once it moved to 5th Street, but we could walk there from our house. I've lived in Beaverton or Aloha for nearly my entire life, with the exception of college, where I attended the University of Portland, but I even commuted from Beaverton to law school in Salem. I'm currently the chair of the board of directors of the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District. And at THPRD, we've seen the importance of regional relationships. We've seen the importance of government acting in service to the people. And I believe my leadership experience at THPRD has prepared me to serve on the city council. We passed an affordable housing policy that will help bring over 600 affordable units to our area. We partnered to host shelters for people experiencing homelessness in our spaces during COVID-19 closures. And we created new naming processes for parks and trails to truly reflect the rich diversity of our community. I am proud to be endorsed by our Washington County Chair, our Metro President, and our Beaverton Mayor. Partnerships like this across our region are the types of partnerships needed for navigating our COVID-19 recovery, for creative solutions for affordable housing, and for doing our part to reverse climate change. I'm also proud to be endorsed by the Beaverton Area Chamber of Commerce, the Tualatin Valley Firefighters Union, and the Beaverton Education Association. The relationships I've built will mean that I am able to hit the ground running in service to the residents of Beaverton. So thank you for having me today and for your time and service to your community and the input that you give about your community and the way that you represent your community. And I am here for questions, so thank you.
Great, thank you very much. So I asked board members to submit questions, of which I will ask you if that's all right.
Of course.
Okay, so first one is, what would you do to promote unity among diverse voices in our community?
Thank you. Well, I think Beaverton,
Excuse me, it was divisive, not diverse. Divisive voices in our community.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, completely opposite.
Kind of a different question.
Yes.
That's all right. Okay.
What happens when I don't have my glasses on?
They're right here. Well, okay. So I think that, because we're all human, we do have differences, right? We each have our own unique lived experiences, but we are all human. So we have that in common as well. And, earlier or last week, I was speaking with the Beaverton Valley Times, and they said, they were looking at my list of endorsements, and they said, how did you get all these different types of groups endorsing you? They saw those groups to be different, right? To not be necessarily groups that you would always see in a list together. And I said, ultimately, we care about Beaverton and we care about the residents of Beaverton. And so for me, it's to foster unity is for us to find those commonalities, right? Like we all care about Beaverton. I mean, all of you are here because you care about Beaverton and you care what happens around you. And so I think it's where we just need to have conversations about the things that that are the same about us, right? And I think that one of the things that I say is a strength of mine is consensus building, and consensus building is being able to have some diversity of thought, some maybe divided opinion, right? And coming together to find a way that you can agree, right? There may be some compromise involved, but you can get to an agreement because you find the common ground. So I think a lot of it is just relationships, and having conversations with people is the best way to build unity.
Okay, great. Next question. Beaverton has a family-friendly reputation. What would you do to continue to attract families who want to live in Beaverton?
Yeah, It's a pretty complex question because I think that in order for us to continue to attract families to Beaverton, we have to make sure that it's affordable to live here. I think it's really important that, especially if you work in Beaverton, you can afford to live in Beaverton. I've talked to many people who are feeling or who have actually been impacted by the rising home costs in Beaverton, and they've had to move further east or west, right, and then commute into our city. So I think we need to be really intentional about having family-sized affordable homes, whether that's rental units or for, to own. But I also think that it requires partnership, right? So my time with the THPRD board is ending this June, but I'm going to be leaving with strong relationships with that entity. And THPRD is such a key piece of the strength and the uniqueness of our community. And Lori, it's really nice to see you on here. Throughout this last year during the pandemic, in the very first federal relief package, the CARES Act, the county was given some money that they decided to designate towards something called community psyche. And every single commissioner was given $250,000 to decide what to do with that. And both Chair Harrington and Commissioner Treese chose to send that money to THPRD because of the strength of the community building aspect that THPRD has. And so I think that having that relationship with THPRD is going to be important, and also a relationship with our school district. All of that is really important to make sure that the entire family, is really cared for and taken care of. So I think that, continuing to advocate for our school district to make sure that they're well funded is going to be important, right? To attract and keep families here, to make sure our park district is healthy moving forward, right? Financially healthy moving forward, to make sure that is also, something, there's so many family oriented things around that. So I think those are a couple of things, but it's definitely going to take partnership. And then the city has a ton of activities itself that they do, right, that are family-oriented things. So I'd like to see that continue.
I agree. There are a lot of family-friendly activities in Beaverton.
Mm-hmm.
My kids used to like going to the parades and, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like the Beaverton parade, right? Like it's hard to replicate that over Zoom. So I look forward to when we get to have that parade again.
I think we all do.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, how can Beaverton care for its homeless without incurring Portland's demise as a nice, safe place to live?
Yeah. So I think, something I said earlier about unity, right, is that one of the things we all have in common is that we're all human. And so I think from the get-go, we need to make sure that we are speaking about homeless people experiencing homeless people, and remembering that they are human, right? And so that we need to have conversations around that include dignity and that create opportunity for safe shelter space. We don't have a family shelter of a shelter that can accommodate a family in Beaverton. And so I think that part of it is we need to find out from our families experiencing homeless, from our individuals experiencing homelessness, what is the best way to serve them. A statistic that is a really rough one that we have is that our Beaverton school district has the highest homeless student population. And in Beaverton, I think our homeless crisis is a hidden homeless crisis, right? It's not like as soon as you go through the bridge and you see tents. We don't have that happening in Beaverton, but that's people living in cars, or that's people, multiple families maybe in a really small unit, right? So that people are crowded in spaces. And so for me, the conversation is a human one. It's around dignity. It's providing as many spaces as we can, right, to create shelter for people. We do have a safe parking program, but right now it only has, I think, 6 to 7 spots, right, for the whole city that where someone can legally park and be safe there, and some services are provided to them. And it's a successful program, but it's small. Like sometimes someone only has their car as an option. And so I want to make sure that we're expanding things like that to make sure that everyone can be safe. And when the eviction moratorium ends, we may be seeing a much larger problem than we know exists right now. And so I want to make sure that we're planning for that. And we are also working across the region to figure out how to solve those problems together, right? So another example with THPRD, right? I mentioned in my opening, the STIR Center has had to be closed because through all of the guidance, senior centers cannot be open during the pandemic. And we have opened that space to be temporary shelter space. And so it's things like that that we can do to get creative with the assets that we do have and making sure that they're just in service to our community as much as they possibly can.
Okay. How can Beaverton help Portland? And should we?
Ooh, that's so interesting. I mean, in the sense that we're neighbors, yes, right? I mean, Portland's success is Beaverton's success, right? I mean, Beaverton is, has built this amazing art center. And when COVID reopenings happen, we're going to want people from Portland or the tourists who come to Portland to come to Beaverton and check out our new art center, right? So I do think that there's ways that we can probably help one another, but I have to tell you, I've been so focused on Beaverton, I don't have any sort of plans on how to address that one. But we are one state, right? We are one country even, right? And so I do feel for what's going on in Portland, and I want to be a good neighbor as best we can. And also, I'm just focused on Beaverton right now.
Yeah. So this isn't from my script, but I'm just wondering, do city councilors kind of get together around the state and, in a relaxed atmosphere, discuss what's going on and what strategies they use?
I think if they, as far as I know, it's just all really casual, right? It's more just like that there's network, right? A network that comes just with being a city councilor. I do know there's like the National League of Cities. And so that's more set up, I think, for the mayors to interact in a more formal manner.
I see.
But as you are all now subject to public meetings laws, right? So are the elected boards. And so you can only ever have a certain amount of elected officials from the same board, right? Gathered without it being subject to public record or public meeting requirements. So I think if it is, it's probably one-on-one conversations, right? And not necessarily formal meetings.
Okay, another question. How can the city of Beaverton better explain racism so that we understand it's a people problem and not a problem with systems?
Well, that's interesting because I do think that while it is a people problem because the people are the actors, right? Like we're the ones who take action and we're the people who build policies. That we've also inherited a system, right, that's been in existence for some time. And so decisions maybe by past people have become the systems, and those systems need to be changed by people now. So that's such an interesting perspective. I do think though it's going to take work as individuals to understand and dismantle racism. And it's also going to take the work of people to work on the systems to break down any sort of systemic racism. And we know it exists, right? Oregon was founded as an all-white state. We cannot deny that that is a system that is racist. And so I do think that there are policies that we're still dealing with as a state as a result of Oregon's founding. So yeah, I think it's a both.
I'm a realtor, and the real estate community is currently reviewing as we go through transactions in various subdivisions throughout the state. We're reviewing the CC&Rs and having those kinds of racist verbiage removed from CC&Rs. I mean, the federal government ordered it done decades ago, but it's still there in CC&Rs.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Thank you for doing that work. It's important, right? And it's the way that each of us can, like, in the place that we are, right? We can break down racism by working on it in the context that we're in. And yeah, I mean, unfortunately, real estate has a huge history of redlining and, the mortgage industry of preventing, people of color from getting mortgages. So that's really great work, David.
Okay, next question. How can Five Oaks Triple Creek, or NACs in general, promote our police department, which, from what I know, has a racism-free system?
Interesting. Well, I think that a lot of the relationship building that goes on, like I know we, THPRD, we had a trick-or-treating event that was a drive-through event, and we had reps from the city of Beaverton and Washington County Sheriff, and all of those types of events where the police can come be part of the community, I think is a really important thing. I know I'm sure it's part of your programming, right, Officer Maurer? And so I do think that those community outreach opportunities are probably some of the best way to do that.
I know the police, they have a citywide event in August usually. I used to take my kids to that where you can meet the police and.
National Night Out.
Yeah, National Night Out. Yeah, there.
Yep.
Yeah, gosh,
And that's been a
COVID has really
tradition.
dampened things. Sorry,
Yeah.
what was that, David?
I was going to say, that's been a Beaverton tradition for decades.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to switch gears here.
Okay.
Another question, if you don't mind. You're doing great.
No, I don't mind. This is funny though, because Thursday night is the forum. And I
Right.
was at the BCCI meeting last night, and they were talking about how they're not going to have very much time for questions because there's 3 of us, and you're just getting to ask me all the questions. So
Well, the reason for having this was to prep you for the voter.
oh, thank you.
But I could only get 2 of you to actually respond. But whatever, you're doing great. So,
Okay.
Okay. What is the current policy situation in the city that you would look to change?
So the safe parking program is great, but the reason I think that it exists is because we've made it illegal to sleep in your car in undesignated places. And I would like to change that because, as I said earlier, it's not always someone's choice, and it may be a last resort for them. And so I would like to see that changed.
And so would we have designated places for that?
No, not necessarily. I don't know. I don't know yet. I just don't think that it's fair to make it illegal to sleep in your car.
So just as a side note, our NAC has had a continuous problem with people in RVs, large trucks, parking on public streets for weeks at a time, sometimes months at a time. So it's a situation that we've discussed many times as a board. And we've complained to city council about it as well. And
Yeah.
they've each actually had the police go by and roust people. So
Yeah, it's definitely worth having a conversation about, right? And understanding, like, I know that some neighborhoods have different rules than others, right? And so, yeah.
well, that was, as far as I know, that's city policy. Yeah. And if I remember right, the city responded with, if the property owners object, we'll do something about it. Otherwise, we just let it lie. Okay, next one. What steps would you take to ensure that the goals of the climate action plan are being met?
Yeah, so I'm really excited that the recruiting for that task force has begun. If any of you are interested, you should apply. It's, I think that that's going to be one of the critical pieces to making sure that we can get after our goals in the climate action task force. I also think we need to look at that again and choose some measurable goals to put against it. I think some of it was less specified. So I'd like us to look at that again and go back and choose where are the ways, like, where are we at now? Where should we be, right? I know the Biden administration just announced certain goals by 2050, and wonderful, but it's too far away. We don't have 30 years to work on the issue. So I'd like to see Beaverton, impacting all of the ways that we can as quickly as possible.
All right, so let me just see here. Oh, we have, so I want to throw it open to anybody else who would like to ask a question. I have a couple more here, but just in case anybody here, Franziska, Officer Maurer, if you have a question for our city councilor, we're all going to be voting. So anybody have a question? Erin?
I had a follow-up actually on not the last question, but the question before that, and to David's point. So what would you propose as a potential middle ground? So we're not outlawing people who are sleeping in their cars because they have no choice, but at the same time, they're not, parking their RV on someone's street for 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's it's a great follow-up, and it's a good point, right, David, about how it's impacting a neighborhood, right? I know maybe Officer Maurer, you're familiar, right? There was an RV like tucked like in a little green space off a canyon road, right? Like some things get abandoned too, right? Which we also don't want to have happen. So I think it needs to maybe be somewhere in between the right now where it's like a very formal and very small allowable parking situation, right? To the free for all. So maybe it's more like we need to work with more places that have parking lots that overnight are not being used or things like that, right? So that we provide a place, but it's just tough for me right now to think like there's 7 available places that, like 7 individual slots, not 7 places, but 7 cars are allowed right now. So that's where I think we need an expansion of that, right? Because I just think we know that there's a lot more people experiencing homelessness than that. So somewhere in between, I think is appropriate, because sometimes I get excited about something and don't think about like, oh wait, but that's another problem that's existing, right? So definitely, this is why we also need to have conversations with our community before we implement policy to make sure it's been informed by our residents.
I think you also have to look at that the city is paying for those spots to be open for those people. So the city is helping these people, but they're also funding these people to keep these places clean and offering them services. That's why I think there may be only 7.
Yeah.
Is because there's a budget only available for these 7 spots.
Yeah. That's true.
So that's part of maybe that's what you're trying to hit on, but on the opposite side, the city has budgeted a certain amount of money to help these people out.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And we all know money is tight.
Yep.
So, okay, well, thank you very much, Ashley.
I have a quick question for Ashley. You mentioned
sure.
that
Go ahead.
that one of your gifts or skills was consensus building. Can you tell us a situation in your career where you had people on opposite sides and you were able to build consensus? Can you tell us a story about it?
Yeah. So when I mentioned that we passed an affordable housing policy at THPRD, and it's a long story, so I'm give you the condensed version of just like where the conflict arose, right? But on our board, we did have some disagreement about whether or not affordable housing was part of our mission or not. And we had a very long process. Staff was very involved, did so much outreach as individuals. We did outreach and research to understand the problem, to understand the best way to help with the solution. And one of our board members in particular, she had some very specific opinions about this, and she didn't really think it fit into our mission, but she still contributed very much to the conversation. And in the end, she decided to vote no on the policy, but her input really shaped that policy, right? So we did have to work as a board to transform the policy in a way that was really like meeting all of our goals, I guess, right? And also being the most impactful, but it was something where, it was not a unanimous vote, right? There was definitely some disagreement. We had disagreements all along the way about how much of investment were we willing to make, right? And what were the trade-offs and things like that. And so it was really just a conversation where we just kind of heard everyone out, right? We made sure everyone had the opportunity to share their perspective. And then we made adjustments based on that too, right? And so even though she voted no, I very much felt like her input was reflected in that final policy. And I thought it was a really great example of where we had some conflict on our board, but we still ended up, making progress towards that goal.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I had a question.
Yeah.
So on the climate change question, you said that Beaverton as a whole needs to incorporate policies or I guess policies as soon as possible. Can you elaborate more on what you mean by that?
Yeah, so I think like one example is when we're doing new development, I would really like to see that new developments have like infrastructure for electric cars, things like that, right? And so it's not something that like it needs to be active right now because we passed a policy. Like I do think that part of it is we need to say, hey, this policy is coming. If you're doing this type of thing, make sure you're implementing this type of green infrastructure, or this type of like water, like lessening of wastewater, like there's different things like that I'm interested in working on, and like electric car infrastructure. Like there's like this gray water, right, where we can reuse water to plant or like water our grass, things like that. So I want to make sure that where we have the opportunities, we're taking the opportunities, but not I don't necessarily think it's always the best thing to do for like a retroactive thing, right? I think it needs to be like forward looking. And then we can encourage incentives for some of the more like retroactive or retrofitting type projects. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Well, as far as like as soon as possible, like what does that time frame look like?
I mean, we've heard since I think 2018 that by 2030 our air will not be as breathable, right? I mean, so one thing I was reading just this week was about a planning decision about when you remove trees and how you replace the trees, right? I think there's things like our tree policy that could be implemented as soon as possible, right? Granted, I always want our policy decisions to be well informed, right? And not just I don't like knee-jerk decisions. Like our affordable housing policy at THPRD took us a year, right? So some of these things are more complex and they will take time for us to make sure we've done our homework. In terms of climate action, like there's a lot of research out there, right? And there's a lot of models and other implementations that other countries and other cities have done that we can look to help inform what are the ways that Beaverton contribute. So I think it's going to be a balance, but I don't remember if there's anything in the action plan that had timelines in it. So like I would want to make sure that we're meeting those timelines if they are in the plan, and where there's ones we can accelerate, we should accelerate.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Are there any other questions for Ashley?
I will put my email in the chat so you can feel free to follow up with me if you have any other questions.
We will be watching on Thursday.
Great.
All
I
right.
would say I'll be good to see you, but I won't be able to see any of you. I know this format is very secure, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
Okay, there's my email. Thank you so much for letting me join you this evening. I'm going to head out, so enjoy the rest of your meeting. Thank you all so much.
Thank you for being such a good sport.
Yep. Talk to you later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Bye for now.
Hey. All right, Officer Maurer, you're up next.
Not much has changed from last month. The typical DUI numbers are steady. As far as, like I mentioned every time, and because of the pandemic and COVID stuff, the typical package thefts from porches is still consistent. On a lighter note, the Beaverton Police Department has switched uniform colors, where we are all black uniforms now instead of the dark navy royal blue. We're slowly incorporating it. Some officers are still on the old uniforms. I currently wear the black one. It's a little bit cheaper uniform and a little bit more uniform. Everybody looks, pretty good with that uniform on. Other than that, we're happy that kids are back in school. Happy to help out with that. Happy to be a resource for schools again. Other than that, it's business as usual, and just taking it day by day. I'm open for any questions as usual.
Is the police force, are they having any difficulty with recruiting and or officers resigning?
I I don't know the exact numbers this year. And again, don't quote me on this. This is from what I heard down the pipeline. We have hired, we're going to hire 4 more new officers. There are, I believe, 4 down at the academy as of right now. Actually, the academy had a couple of COVID positive tests, so they're on pause for about a month, I believe. So those recruits are back with their field training officers right now at the moment for about a month. But as far as new officers, I don't think we're having an issue. I think people are still inquiring, and we're hiring as normal. We go through the normal hiring process, but again, I'm not for sure on the numbers. As far as people retiring, I'm only 5 years on. I know that a officer of 25 years just retired here not too long ago. But I can't, most of those people are a little bit over my head. They're way up there, and we don't hear about that kind of stuff. Or at least I don't anyways, but I can't, and officers resigning, we don't have a large amount of numbers on that.
Good to hear.
I have a question. You mentioned that you're still happy to be a resource for schools again. Are you having schools that are not wanting to use you as a resource anymore? Or are you feeling like you're still being able to keep good there?
Who am I talking with here? I can't see.
Oh, this is Erin.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I had to swipe on my screen there. It's every school that I've been to, it's been really receptive. All the administration, the Beaverton School District is happy to have us, and we're happy to be there.
Great.
Yeah.
Do you have a presence at each school during the day? I mean, is there an officer, a uniformed officer at each campus?
Not at each school. Right now we have, there's 6 SROs, and each one is assigned a high school, and then we each partake in elementary schools and middle schools. So we kind of make our rounds, provide resources, because now school's back in session, kids are back in school, and teachers kind of get to see the students. We are taking calls for service regarding child abuse and stuff like that. So those calls are coming in. We do go and meet with students on some occasions, meet with the staff, meet with the teachers. This last week, I actually met with a kid. He wasn't coming to school, and I met with him last week, and I said, hey, if you, I'll come meet you off the bus in the morning if you come to school. And sure enough, I was there waiting for him, and he came to school, and he was pretty happy to see me. I think he was in 4th or 5th grade or something like that. He was a young kid. He's really, really happy to see me. But we do try and make our presence in the school pretty clear, and we want to be that good, happy, that good resource, that good building of the bridge person there for not only the students and the staff, but teachers and everybody there at school.
Question on a different subject altogether. Is there a shredding event coming up that you guys sponsor? I looked on the calendar recently and I couldn't find one.
That's a good question. I don't know. Because my wife and I are actually wanting to go to one as well. If you can give me your email, I can email you in regards to that and get back to you.
I can put it in the chat.
Yeah, I don't even know how to get to the chat from here. I'm on my cell phone, so I don't even know how to.
Mr. Maurer, I can email it to you.
Oh, perfect. That'll work.
You bet.
Yeah.
I was just going to say a couple of things really quick. First off, Kyle has a question, so I'll unmute him in a second. But last I checked, because I've had emails from community members asking about shredding events.
Yeah.
The official organized shredding events had been canceled last I checked, the ones that the police had been putting on. But I do want to put a plug in that the NAC could organize a shredding event. Other NACs have done it. It was very well received, super easy to do in COVID conditions. So matching grant funds are available if that was something folks were interested in. But anyway.
Well, there you go. Question answered. Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and unmute Kyle here to ask his question.
Oh, 1 sec. We've actually discussed doing that a few times. We just haven't we haven't pushed the go button. Okay, go ahead, Kyle.
Hey, thank you. Hey, Officer Maurer, thank you for your service, first of
Thank
all.
you.
I'm just curious, on the note of community outreach, what sort of expectations or plans, to the extent that they could be made, are there right now for 2021 for the Beaverton Police Department to do any sort of community outreach programs, to be physically present with different groups of people so that the community has a chance to meet representatives of the police department? I know this year is a pretty tough year to plan for, but I'm just kind of curious about what the conversation is on your side.
Okay. So I know that we still hold, and again, I don't want to say for certain. I would have to get back to you in regards to what's going to happen this year. I will get a hold of my sergeant, or one of the sergeants that deals with that directly. If we can get your email in the chat, I can be more than happy to email you with that information. Again, because we're in such a weird time, it's what we're doing at the police department as far as community outreach is not on the normal ground. So I would like to put that on hold and then get a hold of the sergeant who directly deals with that, and then I'll provide you with the right information.
Kyle, you can just put in the chat to panelists instead of making it public, and I'll include that in an email to Officer Maurer to get back to you.
Sure thing.
Yeah, that would be great if you could do that.
Thank you.
Anything else? If not, then I'm going to take off.
Be safe.
Okay. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, Lori.
Well, hey, everyone. More THPRD here. Yeah. Anyway, a few things I'm going to talk about that we talked about again, but I don't want them to go off your calendar. So we have a date for summer registration, which is actually this coming Saturday at it's May 1st, beginning at 8 a.m. And so that we suggest people register online because that's the most efficient way, but we do have a phone-in registration available. So folks can call if they need additional assistance. And we're expanding our Centro de Bienvenida, excuse me. And we're expanding that to be a multilingual welcome center. So in not just having Spanish interpretive services and some assistance there, it's going to expand beyond to Farsi, Somali, and Arabic languages as well. So folks can come in, they can bring one family member with them, and we'll get them set up with accounts and summer programming, and get them apprised of what's going on in the district and how they can be part of it. And if somebody doesn't speak one of those languages, we also have a language line service that we subscribe to, so that we can connect with an interpreter on a phone and also help our patrons that way. So that event is also Saturday, and it will start at 7:30 a.m. and go until noon. And so along with summer registration, we still have some ongoing spring registration as well. So all of that's available through the registration portal at the centers, or calling into one of the centers. So that's all good because we're moving forward, and we narrowly escaped the extreme. We're hoping that we just stay here in the high level and can continue to move our programs forward and have again, a great opportunity for serving the community. In conjunction with that, we're also hiring. So there's lots of opportunities for part-time and seasonal employment available online. And so again, going to the website, folks can look at the different offerings and apply there. We have some recruitment opportunities. The district's recruiting teens for our RISE volunteer program. So age 14 and up, interested in training as youth leaders. They'll have the opportunity to learn leadership and communication skills and to join in our community service opportunities such as the garden work parties, restoration, habitat restoration, and community and cultural events. So that's another step in the right direction of getting our youth involved and starting to help introduce them to opportunities with the district. A step forward with our excuse me, our field use. Up until recently, we weren't able to allow spectators on the fields during practice and play, and now we're allowing two spectators per athlete. They have to follow distancing requirements, face coverings, and they have to stay in a designated spectator area. But that also means that they have separate entrances, exits, and restrooms that they will be using. So at least folks get to see, their kids and other participants play. So that's great. We are pursuing some federal funding. Staff have been working to identify projects from small that are up to like a 1.5 million project up to some larger federal funding opportunities. So partial funding of the West Side Trail Bridge is now being included in a regional package proposal for an anticipated federal infrastructure bill. So working on that. There's a new opportunity for folks actually in the greater Portland, Vancouver metro area. It's called the City Nature Challenge. And the challenge is an opportunity. It's a community science event that allows people to observe and document as many plants and wildlife as possible in a 4-day period. And that is from April 30th to May 3rd. And people are participating from around the world. And this year, again, is our first time with the metro area. So on the website, you can check out City Nature Challenge for that. Bannister Creek Greenway. It had some recent high water impacted the trails and the play area. So staff has started temporary repairs on the trail, which is expected to reopen right about now or first part of May. And then as far as Somerset West goes, that construction is continuing. We're hoping that we're getting pretty close to the culmination of it, but in the final completion, it'll include the walking paths and improved ADA access, new playground and youth facility fields, drainage improvements, and daylighting the creek and restoration for that. And on another note, the Somerset West outdoor pool is scheduled to open May 10th. So folks interested in swimming, those are available, the opportunities, lap swim, and probably some family type recreation swims will be by reservation only. And that's also available online. And then a note on the Eifler Park bike track. In May, the bike track will be expanded 40 feet to the south in partnership with the Northwest Trail Alliance. In April, the district gave an update to the local NAC and launched info on a survey on the webpage to get feedback from the neighbors on the project. So again, partnering with the community to investigate what the needs are and expand that. Any questions on those particular items?
I have a question.
Sure.
It seems like the past few years when we've gone to sign up for activities for our kids at the rec center, we haven't been able to see many opportunities. And when I've chatted, especially particularly with swimming, and when I've chatted with the department there, they continually cite problems with finding enough people to hire. So I'm just wondering if you can shed any light on why they're having a hard time finding employees, or what they're doing to work on that problem so that this resource can be available to more people.
Yeah, that's a great question. And we have, we've been reaching out to our, our peers in other, local areas, but the lifeguard shortage is actually a global issue. And so it is definitely a challenge. And I think, well, part of it is just kids have more opportunities and they're active in more things. And that's a bulk of our crew, our high school and college students. But we have a junior lifeguard program going. So we try to foster from within, kind of like the RISE program, where, well, our intent before COVID was actually also to reach out to our retired, patrons and folks in the area, if they wanted to, have supplemental income or volunteer, give back. But it is definitely, it's a challenge that we're working on. We have a virtual job fair coming up, so we're hoping to, introduce the opportunity to more folks. COVID especially has been really hard on us. People aren't, quite ready to come back to work yet, and those kind of things. But yeah, it has, and I understand your frustration. I mean, I'm sensing it's frustration because you want to get your kids in, and our wait lists are a mile long, and we just don't have the staff. And that's a real challenge because it's a safety sensitive position too. So you can't just hire anybody. But we've instituted a couple other things. So there's a lifeguard prep opportunity for folks to come in and work with our staff during a lap swim time. And they can practice those swimming skills, practice the preparatory skill, the testing skills for the lifeguard, so that they know that they're ready when they get into that program, that they're going to be successful. So we, continue to try to, reinvent ourselves and make those opportunities available. Another issue is just with part-time staff, they're restricted on hours. So that's a challenge to us too, but that's a general job challenge, everywhere you've got your part-time and your seasonal staff. But we're working on it, and we're trying to reach out and again, get people that wouldn't have necessarily thought about being a swimming instructor or a lifeguard interested, because there's a lot of people that just have never had water experience. And so trying to grow that from a grassroots and develop it. Yeah, if you guys have any ideas, let me know, because I'm all ears. Yeah.
I have a couple ideas.
Okay, good.
Okay. Well, first, there's the Boy Scouts. One of the merit badges that's really difficult is life-saving for Boy Scouts. And so there's a lot of instruction and training that goes into getting that. I don't think it necessarily qualifies you as a lifeguard though, but you may want to check with the Boy Scouts, because there's boys that are actively pursuing that merit badge. Granted, Scouts has also been scaled way back. We haven't had a meeting in way over a year now for Boy Scouts. And we can't do campouts. We didn't do summer camp. So they're just kind of eking it out. And then another group.
David, my grandson's working on his Eagle, and he's very close, but he lives in Phoenix.
There we go. And along the same trend, when you're talking about sources, one of the gals in my office has 3 kids, and her oldest is on the swim team. And her 2 younger twins are also on the swim team. So they are super accustomed to being in the water. They're still doing racing and meets. And I think for a summer job or something like that, that could be a source of staff, possibly. I just don't know exactly what kind of training they have besides loving to swim.
Yeah, well,
I was on the swim team too.
Yeah, we do try to tap into to our aquatic local aquatic teams in the high schools. Sometimes it's a competing effort though, because they're practicing at the same time that we're wanting to have lessons or that kind of stuff. But we do try to work around their schedules, and we've been really, really flexible. If somebody says, I can only work 1 day a week, we will figure out that time when we will plug them in. So it's not just that we've got rotating schedules like some jobs. We are so flexible. We are so accommodating. We'll do whatever it takes to get people in, get them trained, be able to perform their skills safely to serve the public. So yeah, we are definitely doing that. But I like the idea of the Boy Scouts. We've had several Boy Scouts with their Eagle Scout projects through the district, and one that actually culminated right as well, kind of as COVID was happening and summer was starting last year, was a life jacket loaner program, which was great, but we really couldn't implement it because we didn't have open facilities or staff. So that's one of the things that we're doing, moving through May, which is National Water Safety Month, and then into summer is a life jacket loaner program for folks. So if they want to come and check out a life jacket, we have all sizes for all ages, and they can do that, take it, then bring it back. We disinfect it and then have an opportunity for somebody else. So
Nice.
that was great. Yeah. And so any other specific questions on those things? You guys did have a couple questions for me last time, and I have sort of some answers for you, I guess. So David, you had asked about the North Bethany Park, and the location is up on Northwest Trillium, and it's a neighborhood park that's established in the new estates at Abbey Creek. And so what the district does is obviously with that development and their master plan is trying to get those neighborhood parks situated throughout the newer developments. So that's what that is. And then let's see, I don't know if it was Erik maybe, but in the interpretive, the signs for the new park renames, yes. So there's discussion on that. I don't know if there's an actually dedicated plan for it or what those signs are going to look like, but yes, they do want to have that interpretive signage available so people understand where the names came from and the historical value and those kind of things. So.
Nice.
Yep.
So besides lifeguards, are there other employment needs at THPRD that you would like to just throw out in case we happen to know somebody with skills?
Yep. Well, moving into summer, so there's a multitude of summer camp opportunities, lots of outdoor summer camps this summer. So they are all over the district. So that's opportunities there. Sports coaches. I think there's some referee positions available online. There are some clerical positions available, some front desk support. Let's see, if there's other instructors, I think there might be some tennis instructor positions available. Childcare, daycare, that kind of thing. Even now that we're still in school, but there'll be those positions, and then moving into the fall, there'll also be those before and after care situations available. So there's, pretty much almost if there's definitely maintenance positions that are part-time seasonal positions. So there's a lot of opportunity out there for folks if they're looking for work and like the idea of park and rec and service and that kind of thing.
Just out of curiosity, do you guys sponsor hockey?
I don't believe we have any hockey at this point. I know there was some discussion with the some hockey at some point, but I don't know where that ever ended up. There's I think there's roller hockey. There's a roller hockey rink or skate rink basically, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Lori.
You're welcome. I know that was a lot, and there's a lot on your agenda today. So I'll let you guys get to it, and it's good to see everybody, and see you again soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Franziska, you are up with the city update.
All right. Thank you so much. Let me go ahead and pull it up here. So a couple of things to share about. So the first is in regards to what's happening on 5th Street. So Mayor Lacey Beatty, with help from project experts, provided an overview and listened to questions from community members on 5th Street happenings. That was at the beginning of this month. The virtual event was held on April 1st, and it includes information on the fountain renovation at City Park, the senior affordable housing project, and book corner prospects. A video of the event is accessible online at beavertonoregon.gov/5th Street Project. And I'll put all of the links that I'll share tonight in the chat afterwards. And it includes an overview of each project and the opportunity to provide feedback after you view the video. These projects support Beaverton's community-driven vision for a more dynamic city center with better access to equitable services. Next up is City Manager Recruitment. The search for the city's administrative lead who will report to City Council on the operation of services and programs continues. A community survey was held that finished in mid-April to gather public input on key initiatives and desired qualities to guide hiring. Opportunities to meet the finalists will occur. It's looking like next month, mid-month. So be on the lookout for information about that. And appointment is expected in summer. And you can learn more at beavertonoregon.gov/city manager. Shelter is extended through May. So speaking of this, the severe weather shelter, they've extended operations through May 31st to continue support for area adults experiencing homelessness and in response to COVID-19. Just Compassion of East Washington County will continue to operate the shelter using funding provided by Washington County. The shelter will be the only site in the county to maintain operations in a group setting with staff and resources available to enrolled participants. And together with relief shelters offering individualized space, there will be a county-wide capacity to serve nearly 160 adults aged 18 older. Beaverton's shelter opened for its 5th season in November of 2020 with expanded operations to include continuous 24-hour, 7 days per week services for up to 30 adults on an enrollment basis. Shelter guests are provided with meals, showers, access to resources, and referral to social services. Referral for adults in need can be enrolled by contacting Community Connect at 503-640-3263 or visiting www.co.washington.or.us/homeless. And families can access the Family Shelter Network by calling that same number at 503-640-3263. And the shelter is not currently taking volunteers or donations at this time, but those interested can check the website for future needs. And that website, which includes more information and updates about the shelter, is beavertonoregon.gov/shelter. And I'm sure Erik will have more to say about this next topic, but the Spring Voters Forum. So about the candidates, including the candidates that were featured here tonight. So that includes for City Council Position 1, as well as the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District THPRD directors that are featured in the May 18th special election. So the Beaverton Committee for Community Involvement, BCCI, will host the live virtual event in just 2 days' time on Thursday, April 29th, beginning at 6:30 p.m. The event can be viewed online at beavertonoregon.gov/voters forum or on Tualatin Valley Community Television, TVC TV, channels 30 for English and 28 for Spanish. And we were taking questions in advance, but that deadline has passed. But we will include information on the website for contacting candidates after the event. So does anybody have any questions for me at this time?
Will the voters forum be recorded for those of us that can't be online at that
It will
time?
definitely be recorded. That's a great question. And I will get the recording up on the website, embedded on the website, so folks can watch it after the event on YouTube.
Thank you.
Nice. Okay, moving right along, Erik, BCCI report.
Yeah, well, Franziska, pretty comprehensive coverage of the voters forum. Just 6:30 Thursday, everyone should go watch it. Erik Smith does a great job of moderating it year in and year out. And again, this is going to be for the City Council and THPRD. There is a voters forum for the Beaverton School District, I believe tomorrow. It's separate. It's BCCI is not running it. They're doing their own thing, but I would encourage people to tune into that as well.
Sorry, I think I mixed up the dates you said. You said the voters forum for the City Council is Thursday?
It's Thursday. City Council and THPRD board is Thursday at 6:30.
Okay, I do believe that's the same night as the city, as the school board. Am I wrong?
The school board one is actually tomorrow night.
Okay, so school board Wednesday,
School board
Thursday.
tomorrow.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, no worries.
The Highland NAC is putting on a live webinar next Monday, May 3rd, from 6 to 7:30. It's called Creating a Backyard Habitat. It's about natural gardening, putting native plants in your backyard, making it more environmentally friendly and so on. I will put a link to that in the notes or in the chat, but there's a link to sign up for, and it's going to be a Zoom meeting. That's next Monday at 6 to 7:30. Okay, those were the housekeeping things. The big initiative that we've been working on, this is something that I've brought up in previous meetings. We have been talking at length in BCCI about the neighborhood traffic calming program. Again, this is the process that people go through if you believe that there's too much traffic in your neighborhood, people are driving too fast, and you would like the city to put something in that will slow people down, make the streets a little bit safer. Think speed bumps, traffic islands, and so on. The primary issue, and this is something that was brought to the BCCI a couple years back by Highland and Central Beaverton NACs after they had several projects fail to get approved, is that once you get to the point where the city has looked at the project, they've determined what they would like to put in, and they survey the neighborhood. The way the vote system works is the city determines all of the households that they think would be affected. They send out a postcard that says either you approve, you don't approve, or you abstain. And at the end of the project, they'll collect that. However, the way they currently calculate those votes, if you do not return your ballot, that's not considered an abstain. That is considered it's considered the same as a no vote. And what I mean by that is for a particular project to pass, you need to have 67% approval, but it needs to be 67% of all cards or all surveyed households. So I'm going to share my screen here for a second.
It's one vote per household, isn't it?
One vote per household.
Yes. Okay.
And can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So here are 4 of the most recent traffic calming projects that were put out to a vote. All of these failed. And if you look at the non-returned vote, which is in this column right here, you can see 3 of these 4 projects, they didn't receive enough votes returned for them to be successful. It wouldn't matter that every single person, even if every single person voted yes, because they did not get back at least 67% of the votes, these projects failed. So the view of the BCCI and our subcommittee that's been working on this is that there is a problem with this system. This system is it's essentially set up to fail. And what we are proposing is that the Traffic Commission take a look at how the system is working, how successful or unsuccessful projects have been, and consider other options, or consider potentially changing how they count these votes, what process they need to approve or not approve these particular projects.
This is a systemic problem in the system.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. So what we are asking, what the BCCI is asking of the various NACs is a couple things. First off, if people have opinions, and this is for the NAC board as well as any of the neighborhood members, if people have opinions about this, that we ask that they submit testimony to the neighborhood office. And Franziska, do you know the email to that off the top of your head?
Let me get it for you, actually. It's like mailbox, neighborhood, something. So.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get that, we'll put that in the chat. But submit testimony about, well, your feelings about this project, particularly if you have been part of a project that failed due to this system. And if you think it's working, if you think it's not working. The other thing that we are asking is for the boards of the NACs, if you agree with us and you think that the Traffic Commission should take another look at this, what we've done is we're submitting letters that each of the NACs who agree with us are signing, and we're submitting that to the Traffic Commission, submitting it to City Council. So what I thought might be an appropriate step for our NAC would be to consider the issues, and I'll send along some material to Erin that we can include with the minutes. Give everybody some time to read over the issues, consider it, and then potentially at our next meeting, take a vote on whether or not we would like to sign our name to one of these letters saying that we think that this process should be looked at. So that's
a great idea.
Erik, the chart you showed us when you shared your screen, if I remember right, the number of homes involved in any one of these efforts was less than 100, like 50 or 60 or 70. With numbers like that, you can actually canvass. You can go out and knock on doors, and maybe that's an approach that the NAC should take, because you can take a copy of their postcard along. They might have lost it or whatever, that they didn't care, but once you hear about it, they might actually have an opinion, and you could get more votes to come in that way.
I think they've done that to a certain extent. Now, certainly that was not the case for the 2020 projects. People weren't doing a lot of canvassing last year, but theoretically, once we open back up again, that's an option. Another easy suggestion that we had, and we would suggest the Traffic Commission look at, is be very clear in these mailings, in these cards, that if you don't vote, it's going to be considered as a no. If that's the way they want to continue to do it, just be very clear, because we think people could easily see this and be like, oh, I don't care one way or the other. My vote, if I don't vote, it doesn't count. It counts as an abstain. And we think that maybe people would approach it differently if they understood the consequence of not returning their ballot.
So our NAC has had many of these votes, and almost every one has failed. In our neighborhood along Fieldstone, we had speed bumps put in, and only half, they had 2 projects, and they were going to put speed bumps all the way to the entry of the property for McKinley Elementary School along Fieldstone. Those people voted, there weren't enough yes votes, but there were enough yes votes to put in the speed bumps around Autumn Ridge Park and on the curve there. Stonegate had a vote literally 20 years ago and didn't pass at all. And the Cambrai neighborhood, it took multiple votes and a lot of home participation to stop, to get the speed bumps put in there, because they had people literally racing through the neighborhood, because people use that neighborhood as a shortcut from 185th to Walker. So anyway, I mean, they had people out there with radar guns and all sorts of stuff, but eventually they got it along Pioneer.
And David, I think you bring up a good point. In some of these cases, these things don't pass because they're not popular enough. And I don't think anyone's suggesting that you should get, if you have 51% of returned votes, that they should pass. But a couple of the 2020 ones, you had something like 88, 90% people voting yes, but it's just because 40% of people didn't return them, the project failed.
Right. Well, that rule has been in place as long as I've been, around and doing this. So that hasn't changed.
So something that has changed, and we got this data from Traffic Commission, something that has changed is the percentage of people not returning their votes has gotten a lot higher.
I see. Oh,
and,
good.
and, part of that could be to Pat's point, they're just not out canvassing enough, and maybe that's the solution. But I think this became a big issue when you had a number of projects in a short succession of time all failing after a certainly more moderate success rate in the past.
I see.
Have you had anyone speak in favor of keeping the system? Because to me, it makes sense to look into this and change it. I'm just curious if there's anyone out there who's advocating to keep it.
No, I would say the closest we've had to that was we've gone and talked to the Traffic Commission a couple times, and their response was, I would say exasperation with us. Kind of like, oh, well, we've looked at that. I mean, we'll fine. We'll think about it again. I don't want to say they blew us off. I mean, I'm sure they've had these conversations with people a lot, and they know the history better than we do. What we're trying to do is just say, look, this is something that's been brought up in multiple neighborhoods. People are very, very unhappy about it. We just want to make sure that this has been looked at. You understand the concerns of the neighborhood, and if this still ends up being the best system, great. I mean, that's the Traffic Commission. They're the experts on this, and maybe it is something as simple as changing the notifications that go out, or making people more aware of how the votes are counted. I don't think we're saying we've got a perfect system. It's just that clearly something is not working. We would like this looked at again.
Okay, thank you, Erik. Let's see, NAC business. March minutes, we will discuss at our next meeting. Treasurer's report, treasurer was unable to make it. I do have an announcement though. So just a quick little story. I had an email today from the Oregon Department of Agriculture, and it was from one of their PhD people. And she wrote me the letter because they are planning to spray parts of our NAC for an invasive beetle, the Japanese beetle. And the Oregon Department of Agriculture has been doing this since I think it's 2016. They've been systematically spraying wherever they find an infestation of these beetles, because they do not want the beetle to get established in the state. So they're being really proactive at it. So anyway, they asked me to sign a document giving them permission to spray part of Stonegate. And I go, hold on, I don't own Stonegate, and they're a separate HOA and all that. So anyway, I put them in touch with Stonegate's board and Stonegate's property manager. But just for your info, the spray is going to be on May 4th. And they have contacted houses, all the houses in the area that are going to be sprayed. They all have a thumbs up to do it. The actual spray that they're using is not harmful to human beings or wildlife. I have the name if you want to know. It's called...
Or household pets?
Yeah, or household pets. Let's see. It says, the people, kids, pets, and wildlife can walk on the material. So, and it says, okay, according to the EPA, even direct exposure to, It's called ACCLEPRYN capital G. So I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that. Even direct exposure to that is unlikely to have any adverse health effects on people, kids, pets, or other wildlife. There is also no caution words on the product label. You don't even have to wear gloves when you apply it, and there is no re-entry period, which means that once the product is placed on the ground, people, kids, pets, and wildlife can walk on it. And she said, we do recommend that sprinklers are turned on for a few minutes after application to help get it into the ground so it will be effective against the beetle grubs in the soil. The Oregon Health Authority has made their own website about the project and the product we use. So I don't know if I could, maybe I should put that into the chat, or, I mean, it's going to be next week, so that'll be before our minutes get out. But anyway, for your own benefit, if you see somebody spraying on May 4th, which is a Tuesday, that's what they're doing. I don't know exactly where in the NAC, except there at the entry to Stonegate, they'll be spraying.
And David, I can tell you, I've got a few emails from them.
Oh yeah, you live in Stonegate.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, okay, great.
And they've been in contact with this for months, and they basically said, hey, we're going to come in, we're going to spray a couple of your trees. Basically what you said. They're like, we'd prefer if you have everyone inside when we're doing it, and after that, if you can turn the sprinklers on, great, but it's basically safe right after that.
Great, good to hear. Okay, let's see, do we have anything else?
February minutes.
Oh yes, we need a motion for approval.
I move to approve the February minutes.
Pat, can you approve those?
I second the motion.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. And thank you, Erik, for mentioning that. So we have, since we just have a couple of minutes left, we did talk briefly with Miles, and Miles was encouraging us to have a shredding event. I don't know how many people it takes to do it. And I'm not sure where we would do it at. I suppose possibly one of the churches we would have to ask, but do you think we should try to do one of those?
I mean, it seems like there's a good amount of interest. I know when Highland did theirs, they were oversubscribed, or they had to turn people away, particularly with the police not doing theirs. Mm-hmm. So I would think if we can secure a good spot, it sounds like, especially now that this has happened with Highland before, it's pretty turnkey, at least from what Miles was telling us. Yeah, I think it's worth doing.
So Franziska, does it take like a month to get it organized, or?
I'm not sure how long it took for Highland to get theirs organized, but they have a whole template that they created essentially for COVID protocols. That's really easy to emulate. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy to help facilitate that for sure. So if you just want to shoot me an email, and then I can get that ball rolling, I can get the Highland NAC document and sent that over to you. And we can go from there. Miles will be back next week. He's off all this week, but he was obviously super instrumental in helping the Highland folks. So
did the police help with that project, or do they have volunteers out directing traffic?
To be honest, it actually wasn't super human resources intensive, from my understanding. They were able to set it up in such a way that it was pretty limited need as far as like labor of volunteers, but it had a great reception. The neighborhood was really grateful, especially because these more formal organized shredding opportunities have gone away during COVID. So, but yeah, so I'm happy to work with Miles to make sure that you all have the support you need if that's what you would like to do. So it was from everything I've heard, it was pretty simple and straightforward in terms of on the spectrum of NAC events that you could possibly do. It was on the easier side for sure.
So with the matching funds, what is the budget hit to the NAC to do something like that?
Yeah, I'm not actually sure, but I want to say it was like $1,000. I mean, because you work with a company to come out with, they've got a truck, specialized kind of situation for dumping the materials. I mean, I think that was really the only expense. So, but yeah, so we're happy to help.
I think the city has like orange cones, so you can
Yeah,
direct
for sure.
traffic.
We've got all of those.
And usually at these kinds of events, they collect food for the food bank. So we would need a vehicle to load the food up to take it to the food bank, which is right around the corner. So, okay.
I think the other thing that we were looking at when we discussed this last time is potential locations.
Mm-hmm.
I know somebody brought up the church on the corner of Walker and 173rd. Nice big parking lot back there where you could do, because my understanding is that the way Highland did this is they had, I believe it was a church parking lot, and they just had a loop set up where people would, they'd drive in, they'd dump out their shredding stuff, they'd drop off, the food or whatever they brought, and then they just drive out, and it was just sort of in a line. I think there was some process about, essentially signing up where they were from or just confirming that they actually did live in the NAC. But that was my understanding. So anywhere where you had a parking lot big enough to do a, one way in, one way out.
Yeah, you need an entry and an exit, two separate access points to the street.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that was me. I was recommending the one on 173rd. It's right by the Willow Creek Greenway.
Mm.
So I could definitely ask about that. I just wasn't sure what the first step would be for that. If we need to have some information from the city first, and I'd be happy to check. Because they do have a good loop. You just exit off of 173rd and get right back on.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys like that idea, I can definitely check. But we'd want to have a couple dates in mind. I see a thumbs up. But yeah, we'd want to know that we had an okay from the city and such for that too. So.
Okay. So Franziska, do you need me to send you an email, or can you just ask the Highland NAC for their template?
Yeah, if you could just go ahead and send me an email. I've got multiple projects that I'm managing, especially while Miles is out. It'll help make sure my email inbox is how I remember all of the things that I need to do from day to day. So so that nothing falls through the cracks, because I want to make sure that you all get the resources that you need here quickly. But
okay.
But yeah, so yeah, I mean, I wasn't super involved in it, so I'm sorry I don't have more involved information to share on it, but I just have kind of the cursory, like, it was really great and it was pretty easy and other NACs should do it. So.
And is there an age requirement? I mean, do you have to be 16 or? I'm
not sure. I mean, I don't know what the roles of the volunteers that were helping. I just know that it didn't require like a dozen volunteers to pull it off. It just, there was a handful of folks that were helping direct it. I think Miles was also actually on site for that event as well, assisting with it. So yeah, so he has like the most information, but I will certainly make sure that, the ball gets rolling on this.
Okay, super. All right, thank you. Let's see. Oh, it's 8:29. Okay.
Well,
Uh,
really
does
quick,
anybody-
since we do have 3 folks here in attendance, and I want to make sure that they can feel connected to the NAC. I know it's weird when it, video.
Oh
and
yeah,
not
I
video.
can't see them.
I was just going to go ahead and unmute them all, and if they, had comments or questions that they wanted to make, they're welcome to just before we wrap up.
Oh, good.
And so Kyle had actually reached out to me earlier about when our NACS meetings were. So Kyle, I'm glad you were able to participate. And he's going to be on the Bureau Budget Committee with me. Which
I thought that might be the same Kyle Stack that I was familiar with, but
Hey, Franziska, how are you?
hey, I'm doing well, Kyle. Good to
Hey,
see
Erik.
you.
And
Okay,
hello,
good
everyone
to
else.
See you. I didn't want to assume it was the same Kyle Stack, but I was like, I think I know that Kyle. Anyway,
Same one.
well, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
And Jenny, you've been to a meeting before, right?
I've been to several.
Yes.
I represent the Muirwood neighborhood HOA.
Right.
And I'd be happy to help to volunteer with the shredding event once it starts getting all scheduled and stuff.
Great.
Excellent.
Who's our third person?
I think he just dropped off. So, but I like to give folks the chance to talk regardless.
Okay. So, all right, great. And you're still working with Nora?
Yeah, Nora's no longer our HOA president, but she's still very involved.
Oh, that's good. So did she ever tell you about the bus barn?
A little. I need to get the whole story someday.
She and Jeff were instrumental in
Yeah.
helping out with the bus barn. Oops. Okay. Does anybody else have anything else they'd like to add? All right. Thank you all for coming. Good to see you, Pat.